Good morning. So happy Pride, everybody. Yeah. Woo. This is Pride Sunday, and while we carry our joys and concerns and the love that can feel like both a joy and something precious to hold, today I ask you to say, this is a gay church.
This is a gay church.
And how good does that feel to say that? I don't know about you. But it feels pretty good. And you know, in Florida and other places, they're really trying to do the don't say gay, and I've got my say gay shirt on. And when Governor DeSantis passed his hateful legislation, we had a little postcard writing thing with a local UCC pastor and a few people from the congregation, and I sat at a table with other people, and we had a big rainbow unicorn, and we wrote, say gay, say gay, say gay, say gay, say gay, say gay. I just want to say it lots, you know, and normalize that we are all people of worth and dignity, and that, you know, whatever your orientation or gender or belief, as long as we are trying to be good people, this is a good place to be. And you know, having our flags in the window, little Henry Rubicki saw it last year, and he said, "Oh, Mommy, that's the Rainbow Church. That's my church." And or a couple of years ago, she took a picture, and I just thought, how great is that? You know, a little guy, you know, 6 years old, and just knows that it's okay to be who you are and to be fully alive and welcome. And I love the reading from Victoria Safford. Ours is absolutely, gladly, hopefully, and humbly, gaily a gay church, a gay tradition, which everyone, including heterosexual members and friends, is welcome, where everyone is needed, where everyone's experience is cherished as a sacred text, because no one's experience of living and loving can be comprehensive, because each of us holds clues to the other's need on how to live with dignity and joy as a human person, and none of us knows enough about that yet to be considered whole. And we're all on this journey to wholeness, you know, and all of who we are, and we try and be better people. And I'm just so grateful to hear the story about Kate growing up here. I know I never thought that I would be standing in a pulpit in 2023. If you'd asked me that when I was a young girl in South Carolina with 2 queer kids openly out in a congregation, in a community that welcomed them, in a pride that I had a booth at our local congregation, where I, as a person who discovered in my college years that I am also not just attracted to men, and I have different ideas about who I am as a person, and that we're all growing, you know, we're all learning. But when I was in the 90s at Irmo High School in South Carolina, no. Unfortunately, I had a good friend, David, and he was in my English class, and he would just push buttons because he didn't care. And he wore a dress to school one day, and the football team beat him up right in front of me. He would find solace in our theater classes and chorus. It was not safe to be out. It's not safe to be out in many places, even in this town and in our schools. But we try and create spaces that are safe and that are welcoming. And like Carl said, to be an ally and to be all year round, you know, to whether you put a sign on your door, like if you're a college professor, or, you know, safe space, or if you wear a little rainbow pin. Marcia Jacobs makes these beautiful rainbow pens, and they're back on the greeter table, and they say, hey, I'm an ally, I'm a safe person. And these small clues just normalize to everybody. I forget where I was. I think somebody had posted, oh yeah, my friend Cara Sweeney from Atlanta had posted this about her son's kindergarten class, which was a few years ago. And Jacob was in class, and somebody was saying, when I'm older, I want to marry a woman. And it was a little girl that was saying that. And the little boy turned to her and said, girls can't marry women. And then Jacob, my friend's son, said, well, my sister is gay. And apparently, the kid kind of went, huh. And then the kid next to him across the table said, well, my sister's gay. And then the kid who had said the woman can't marry a woman, and he said, well, I guess it's okay then. And they went up, and they went about their business as kids. And Cara said, I don't know if the kindergarten teacher noticed this, but this revolution that happened in a kindergarten class where children normalize loving one another, and that's what we want. We want spaces where you're allies, where you stand up and say, no, actually it is okay to wear a dress. It's actually okay to dress how you want to or be who you want to be. Yesterday at the UU booth, at the Chippewa Valley Pride booth, it was really fun to see what people would say. They would ask, what is a Unitarian Universalist? And part of what we would say is what we heard today. It's a place where you can love who you want to love, and be accepted as who you are. And also that we have beliefs that are different. One person was like, I'm an atheist. Oh, I'm an atheist too. And then I was like, I'm a mystic. And then, but we believe in love. And so it's really fun to see kind of how do you describe such a wide path and a loving path. And I think the key idea is that everybody is a blessing. Someone came up who was very, very much expecting and had a nice, beautiful gay pride shirt on. And I said, oh, and we do baby dedications too. And she's like, oh, and I said, it's not quite like a baptism because we believe your child is originally blessed. She was like, oh. And so that's the difference, is we believe that you were born right the first time, and that no church, no official, no hamada in a pulpit can tell you that you're okay because you are okay. And that a place like this is a place where we can grow and learn from one another. And, love unites us across our differences. Love should not be transactional. And that can happen in unhealthy relationships too. Like, oh, well, if I do this, you should do that, And so love should not be transactional. Your right to be loved is not based on some imaginary line that determines whether you're worthy or not. Not some being in the sky that sets rules for salvation or whether you're in some club or not. And the first place to start with love is with yourself. Your fully imperfect, bad breath in the morning, hair sticking up, imperfect and lovable self. You are lovable and worth love. And the healthiest part is to start a relationship, not with somebody else, but with yourself. So when you look in the mirror and you go, oh, I see a line. Oh, I didn't do so-and-so. How about instead noticing, wow, I have big blue eyes. Never mind the circles underneath. We always go to the critical part, don't we? What about something, say something nice to yourself. And if you're kind to yourself, what's really funny is it's easier to be kind to others. Loving yourself makes you prepared to be in a healthy space to love others. And, when we think about the Metta Sutta, giving compassion is in Buddhism. It's, may I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be whole. And I'm not saying the whole thing, but And then you go out and you say it to your friends. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be whole. Then you send it out to the community and you say, community, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well, or may we, because we're all part of the community. And then finally, the hard part is sending it to those people that just really make it hard. The Pat Robertsons, the folks that act out and say hateful things, and to send them compassion that's hard work. It's hard work. But to do that is also to put love out in the world, because we don't have to enter into their hate, Doesn't mean we don't hold people accountable, but we can be loving people. And so when I think about the struggles, that I see in congregations, sometimes here I've had people come up to me and say, I don't understand all this pronoun stuff. I don't understand why people have to choose different pronouns. And I think, again, it's just like, people don't choose to be gay necessarily, it's who they are. Just like gender and religion, and I didn't choose to be Julie with curly hair and blue eyes, and I am who I am. And we're always becoming. And I think the best thing that we can do is to try, We're going to make mistakes. It's really hard to change, if you've known somebody as a certain name a whole life. But the best thing that we can do is believe people. If somebody says, my name is, say, well, welcome to you. Hello, let me make you a new name tag. And what pronouns would you like to use? And then you just try your best. And there are terms that I am learning, like demisexual and da-da-da-da. And I learned so much from talking to my kids and going to workshops. And things are going to keep changing and evolving because the world changes. And we change. And I think being a relevant congregation means that we push ourselves. We push ourselves into thinking, who are we? How do we include people and make sure that they feel worthy, whole, and loved, whoever they are, whatever their identity? And so in recent years, you might have noticed that there's more people who are willing to identify as LGBTQ. There was a Gallup poll about how 7.1% of US adults identify as something other than heterosexual, which is double that in 2012. And 21% of Generation Z adults, those are adults born between 1997 and 2003, I have one of those, identify as LGBTQ+. There was an interview on Today that interviewed 12 members of the LGBTQ+ community, sharing their coming out stories and their general views of coming out. Amiri Nash, a college student from Rhode Island, shared that she felt sorry when she told her parents that she was gay. Jess King shared her mother said she was going through a gay phase. It did not think it would last. Bill Lyon shared one of the more memorable stories about a common fear of LGBTQ+ individuals. He noted that 60 years ago, it was challenging to come out because most of the time, parents would kick their children out of the house. It was also essential to know back then that no one could come out as gay for fear of their safety, and it was an isolating experience. And there's plenty of communities where you still can't come out or be safe, but hopefully we can help change that paradigm. And thinking about mental health and the challenge to LGBTQ+ individuals is if you aren't accepted as who you are, your mental health is going to be a struggle. And so being an ally, trying to figure out how to be an ally is super helpful. There's the Trevor Project, which has a coming out webpage. And we've got the Human Rights Coming Out page. This is a website that has articles about understanding pronouns, online communities, LGBTQ+ youth. And so when we have our welcome statement, which some people say is very long, we are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity, We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all, and it goes on. You know, I have had someone tell me that they were brought to tears the first time they came in and heard that, and they just cried silently in the corner because this was the first space that they had heard that in a church. And some people come from traditions where, regardless, even if they ask questions, they're not welcome. And so for us to explicitly state that someone is welcome is part of being a welcoming congregation. And so what do we do with that? Do we show our pride flags all year round? Do we go out in the streets? Do we tell other churches to get their act together? Yeah. Yeah, we should be proud. We have a rainbow flag on our sign out front, and I think that don't hide your light under a bushel. This UU congregation is showing up and sharing our welcome, and saying Black Lives Matter. What? LGBTQ lives matter, and to be unafraid to say this is important. We live in a society where hate is getting a lot of momentum. There's so much anti-trans legislation, where children are being denied life-affirming surgeries in, 17 states now? It's 19 states, yeah, my kiddo keeps telling me each one that happens. And it's life-threatening. And that drag is not a crime, Drag. Have a good time. And so I think if we can show up and be proud and be a space of welcome, it makes a difference. And so I know I'm preaching to the choir a bit, but I just want to say, it's okay to make a little noise. And it is risky. It is risky, to stand out from the crowd, to be visible. And I'm really proud of this congregation for putting our flags out. And I hope we'll continue to shake up that Midwest, let's not rock the boat, because that's, it's cultural. It's the same way in the South, be nice and smile, but sometimes you gotta shout a little bit, shine a little bit, because that light and that love is infectious. And I know I was really excited on Monday, June 19th, we're gonna have Juneteenth. And it'll be at Carson Park, and the organizers said, hey, can someone from the UU do the welcoming blessing? Because they know it's going to be a welcoming blessing. It'll be interfaith, it'll be appropriate, and it's, how do we represent? So I just have a little story for you. It's called Long May They Wave, and this is by Christy Cardinal. Imagine a picture of a flagpole bent at 90-degree angle in a small scrap of fabric. The edges are frayed where the flag was ripped apart. And it snapped me back to reality, the reality where our state governments are attacking trans folk and their families, the reality that the Supreme Court is repressively restricting our reproductive rights, the reality where so many things are contributing to the collective trauma of late-stage capitalism. And this is her story. I was at General Assembly, 2,500 miles away from home, wrapped up in the love and tension of colleagues and congregants. My partner, Jay, was in Michigan taking care of my feline overlords. He sent me pictures of the reality back home. Someone had yanked down the Progress Pride flag down from in front of my house, the house where my kids live. Tears stung my eyes, fear filled my body. I shared on my social media what had happened, and immediately a straight friend sent me a message offering to replace the flag. I said, yes, and she told me when to expect it. Jay rehung the flag, which seemed bigger and brighter this time around. And then I came home and I held the flagpole and moved the scrap of flag through my fingers, and tears came, this time hot with rage. I shared on social media again, this time talking about the emotional toll. This was not just vandalism, this was violence. Someone suggested that I fill my yard and cover my house in pride flags. Yes, I thought again. I made an online wish list with various flags and shared that as well. 2 days later, I came home from the office with a stack of packages on my porch. I came down with COVID that day, and so thought that the flags had to wait, and the community showed up again when another person offered to come put them up in the yard for me. Never have I felt that an army of lovers cannot lose than when I saw this in my front yard. Tears of joy filled my eyes as I saw the brightly colored compassion and love of community waving in my grass. Queer joy is resistance. So, I want you to feel that rainbow connection. I don't think I can sing it because I'll probably cry, but may you feel that rainbow connection and that love amongst you and each other. Amen.